It's great to see so much discussion. Fantastic. All right, so that's all good, all good. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you had a good break, short break. This afternoon, we continue, and we have a crucial discussion on a topic that impacts not only the global tourism industry, but also enriches the social fabric or societal fabric, which is inclusive tourism. So inclusive tourism is essential for ensuring that the rights and the needs of persons with disabilities are fully integrated into the global tourism sector. So I'm quite excited to welcome the panelists here because they will provide insights into innovative practices, policies, and partnership that really make tourism accessible for all. The session really underscores the potential for inclusion. We've heard it right before the break, the fact that we have to take a lead, highlighting the benefits both to the individual but also to society at large while advancing the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So let's begin with a keynote from Mr. Eoghan Flasbach, State Secretary at the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development in Germany. Mr. Flasbach, welcome back to the stage.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, especially from Albania, from Jordan, from civil society, from business sector, from academia. Great to be here at this session again. And in a couple of weeks, exactly at the 2nd and 3rd of April, we will have the Global Disability Summit here in Berlin, and it will be hosted by Germany, by our dear friends from Jordan, and by the International Disability Alliance. We became, over the last 2 years, since we were preparing for the Global Disability Summit, real enthusiasts for this topic, and specifically in the collaboration with Jordan, my dear friends, Prince Mirat, who is a fantastic leader in his country and globally for the rights of persons with disability. Let me mention at the beginning, it is about inclusiveness for persons with disability as a human right, but it goes beyond that. It is relevant for societies as a whole, and not including persons with disabilities in our economies means a reduction of 7% of our global of the GDP in the respective countries. So if you do not follow moral categories, just looking at the economics, as it is clear that we should involve persons with disabilities fully. There are approximately 1.3 billion people worldwide living with disability, 80% of them in developing countries, and that is what the GDS is about. They often face human rights violations, discrimination, and stigmatization. This is especially true for disadvantaged groups such as girls and women. We had a session on women empowerment in the tourist sector right prior to this meeting. And girls and women who are affected by multiple discrimination. For example, the employment rate of women with disabilities is in average less than 20% in economies. And that this is not right is so obvious as it can only be. Only 3% of all persons with disabilities have them from birth. 97% of all disabilities are acquired, if you want to name it so, later in life. So actually, we all could be affected right of tomorrow. Tourism is a labor-intensive industry and potentially offers a wide range of employment and income opportunities for persons with disabilities. Accessible tourism enables persons with disabilities to travel. This promotes and to encounter persons with and without disabilities, breaks down prejudice, and at the same time opens up a large market. In Europe, around 80 million people live with disabilities. More than 70% of them, and I think it's a very relevant figure, have the financial means and the capability to travel. They are usually accompanied by up to 3 relatives, friends, and caregivers when traveling, which again indicates a huge economic potential. Accessible travel offers appeals to families with small children or elder travelers as well. And accessible offers provide better quality for everyone and make destinations more competitive. They reduce also the risk of seasonality and build long-term customer loyalty. In addition, the local population benefits from barrier-free offers in public spaces. Colleagues, persons with disability, or rather the respective associations, should be consistently involved in development and accessible offers in the tourism sector. All stakeholders must be involved in the development of inclusive tourism destinations. Systematic approaches are essential. Better use must be made of the opportunities offered by digitalization as well. Coming to the end, inclusion is a human right, as I said right at the beginning, and a key to reducing poverty. Inclusion is a moral imperative and at the same time an economic advantage. And inclusion is an essential goal and at the same time an ongoing process that will take a lot of time. Let's start now in tourism too, and let us make use of the enormous opportunities in this sector, and hope to see you all at the GDS 2nd and 3rd of April. Thanks.
Thank you so much. If I may ask you to take seat number 2, because you will be joined. I'll be sitting here if you can. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those compelling insights and setting the stage here. So let's welcome our esteemed guest who will be joining the panel. So I have an honor to introduce His Excellency Dr. Abed Al-Razak Al-Abiat, Director of the Jordan Tourism Board from the Kingdom of Jordan. Please take a seat next to Mr. Flasbach. Thank you so much and welcome. We can certainly give a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yep. And next from Albania, it's a pleasure to welcome Mr. Sofian Yalpai, Deputy Minister of Tourism Environment. Thank you so much. Next, we have Mr. Michael Peters from Weitsprung GmbH. It's a specialized tour operator for persons with disabilities. Michael, please come up to the stage. Next, we have my colleague, Professor Dr. Harald Zeiss, Chair of Sustainability Committee at the German Travel Association. Actually, if I may ask you, Michael, if you can take the seat next there. Thank you so much, Harald. It's a pleasure to have you back. And then we welcome a representative representing the European Disability Forum. Last but not least, please welcome Ms. Gunther Anker. Gunther, welcome. That's great. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. So now, before we dive into discussion, a quick note for the keen observer in this audience. You might notice that our panel today looks a bit different than planned. Our colleague Gunther Anker finds herself amid a distinguished panel of men. Originally, this was not the plan. We had a good gender representation, but life has its twists, as we know, and 2 of our female experts had last-minute emergencies. This won't diminish, I think, the quality of or the depth of our conversation, but it really highlights, I think, the real-world challenges that we have sometimes, and we need to adapt. So with a nod, perhaps, to the unexpected, let's explore how tourism can truly be inclusive for everyone. I think what we'd like to do is I'd like to address, I think you've mentioned some excellent data and numbers, and I think I'd like to address this just a little bit more. 3 relevant studies, and you've mentioned already one. Inclusive tourism enabled travelers with disabilities to participate equally in global tourism, and the UN tourism. There are approximately 1 billion persons with disabilities worldwide. It's an enormous target group that has often been represented. Second, the industry benefits economically. You've mentioned this from a broader target audience. So we have a study from the European Network for Accessible Tourism shows that accessible travel can increase revenue by 20%. And third, from a societal perspective, inclusive tourism promotes accessibility and raises awareness for diversity and integration. And there's a study from the World Health Organization, accessibility in public spaces lead to higher quality of life for all, of course. Now, I guess it's important to mention that inclusive design doesn't mean you're designing one thing for all people. You're designing a diversity of ways so that everyone can participate and can have a sense of belonging. I'm turning to you, Mr. Flasbach. So in your keynote, you mentioned inclusive concept. You've also mentioned such a thing as no poverty, which is one of the SDGs, SDG number 1. Could you elaborate a little bit on the strategic approach that the BMZ is employing to promote integration of persons with disabilities, generally speaking, but also perhaps with a focus of the tourism sector in developing countries or emerging countries?
Yeah, thanks a lot, and hello to all the panelists. And if this would have been planned, I wouldn't have been here because we have a strict no male only panels. But wonderful to be with all of you here together. And yes, we see inclusion of persons with disability, but in general of marginalized group in our society as a key element of sustainable development in our partner countries. And I want to repeat what I said. It's not just about protecting. It's not just protecting persons with disabilities and ensure that they have their rights. This is, I would say, the bottom line. But it is more relevant to look at it that inclusive societies with regard to persons with disabilities, with regard to women and girls, with regard all diversity markers you can think about, these countries, these societies are more resilient societies compared to those with exclusion as the normal track. And that is what we try to get into the DNA of our development cooperation policy. We are not that yet. For example, we introduced just last year a marker for persons with disability, and an inclusion marker, which means that we monitor where is our money going to? Is it addressing also persons with disabilities? We do have a marker, a gender marker already traditionally, but we didn't have one for inclusion of persons with disability. And that is a starting point. If you don't know where you are, you can't know where you want to be. And our, together with Jordan, our target is to pledge around 15% of the global development flows to 15% of the people with disabilities. And I think that's fair enough to address a similar amount of money to those people. Let me, in this first round, end with one wonderful example from Jordan, which is linked to tourism. Tourism is not just only going into the wild, it's also city tourism, for example. And when I was in Amman, as I said, my good friend, His Royal Highness Prince Miret, brought me to the National Museum of Jordan. And I was really moved to see that. And you have, for example, some sculptures, the most relevant sculptures, you have copies of them, and they are not behind glass, but you can touch them, so that those who are not able to see them, blind people, that they can feel what they see. And I think that is much more than what we do traditionally, trackways to guide blind people. It is, well, looking through the sensitivity of persons with disability and make them 100% part of it.
Very good. Thank you so much. Well, let's turn to you. Let's turn to Your Excellency. So through the Tourism Law of 2024 and the Accessible Jordan program, Jordan has taken many initiatives to promote inclusion in tourism. So the question is, how has that impacted the country's attractiveness from this, from being an inclusive travel destinations, and what does it mean as well for your sector, economically speaking?
Thank you very much. I am here just on behalf of His Royal Highness Prince Murad bin Zayed, who is conveying his regards to the audience and to all of you presenting here. He just deputized me he didn't make it in the last minute, as you mentioned. Right. Hopefully that he will participate in the Global Summit, whereas we are working as partners with this summit. The inclusive tourism or the accessible tourism, it's my passion personally, actually. Since 15 years, I just reiterate what I said this morning in the session. I booked the domain Jordan for All. This is already booked, and I was affiliate member with ENATS, European Network for Accessible Tourism, because we strongly believe that tourism is a right for people to travel, for everybody, it's for all. And I personally prefer to say that, or when you talk about disabilities, to just say the word or the term specific requirements, because everybody has specific requirements. When you go to the hotel, you have specific requirements. It's higher floor, lower floor, you choose your room, the size. This is special requirements. So people, they have, let's say, special needs or disabilities, they need special requirements. So from this definition, we come up with, as Jordan, to redefine and to make sure that our product, the supply chain, is aligned with the standards and to respect the requirements of the people. They need specific requirements. That's why the Higher Council on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, headed by His Royal Highness Prince Murad, made sure to develop or to engage with several stakeholders. First of all, the building codes. I think now Jordan has developed the building codes with the Ministry of Construction that all the tourism sector, the supply chain, the service providers should align with the standards that facilitate and enable our visitors to live and experience and explore the country comfortably. Also, we have a training program for our employees in the tourism sector, from the airport to the restaurants, museums, hotels, all the supply chain, the tourism sector, transportation also, to train them how to deal, how to facilitate and to match the requirements of the specific needs. Also, many of the sites now in the progress, now I can tell you Jerash and the Citadel are already fully accessible now in terms of the disabled people that they need just to move they pave the trails or the signage or the requirement, all the experience are now accessible for the people that, or the visitors that they has special requirements. Now in the process, in the pipeline, we have another projects in Petra, Wadi Rum, and Madaba, and museums now, they are already doing that also in terms of improving the product in Jordan to be within the inclusive tourism terminology. I'm personally, as a head of Jordan Tourism Board, responsible for marketing. So now we are trying to push the content, developing content that cater for the needs of the specific requirements. I remember 2012, by the way, the first thing I did in JTB, the second day I was hired as a managing director, I asked to do the CD. You remember the CD? Yeah. We have a CD or DVD where the promotional video about Jordan, you choose the language and you choose the sign language. I did the promotional video with the sign language, which is the first achievement in GTB. That was in 2012. So the beginning, now in Jordan, the government, we have a clear direction that we need to be catering for all visitors in Jordan.
You've mentioned just shortly sort of this upgrade in infrastructure that needed to happen, and then the training, etc. Do you have numbers, economically speaking, what that meant and what it means to open to?
You know, now in Jordan we talking about the tourism. We are talking about 6.2 million visitors per year. Okay. I can tell you 250,000 of these visitors have special requirements. Most of them are Jordanians, by the way, within the domestic tourism. And we hosted a lot of visitors that they do the diving, they have with wheelchairs. We make sure that they have very comfortable experience in Jordan. But from the economic point of view, we have a great opportunity to attract more potential visitors to Jordan, to make sure that all the infrastructure that they have that cater for their needs. And by the way, one of the things that under the definition of the accessible tourism, the families with young children, you know, this is very important, because if this destination or the tour operator secure a nursery or escort with these families, definitely will attract more tourist destination, which will be translated to tourism receipts, and this will impact the local communities, and you can expand more, and the distribution base and the development will definitely touch every single village and city in Jordan.
Thank you so much. You've both mentioned, by the way, the Global Disability Summit in a couple of weeks. I'd like to come back to this a little bit later. Turning to you, Mr. Eoghan, so Albania, official co-host, of course, of ITB. We all know what an amazing opening on Monday night, and a valued partner, of course, of the BMZ as well, the BMZ, in the field of tourism. So what are the approach that you're pursuing to achieve inclusion in tourism in Albania? What progress have you made in terms of the facilities? We've just heard now from Jordan, so in terms of facilities, but also historical sites, for example, to make those more accessible.
Thank you very much. Of course, being the host of ITB Berlin for Albania is a great opportunity to showcase its touristic potential. As an emerging destination in Europe, we believe that no better stage in the tourism sector larger than ITB can happen. So we are very happy that we are the host country of ITB Berlin this year. And of course, as a representative of the Ministry of Tourism and Environment of Albania, a partner with BMZ, we are very grateful for the great cooperation that we are doing in Albania in terms of sustainable, accessible, and also inclusive tourism. We didn't inherit a tourism industry in the country, even though Albania is placed in the middle of a top touristic destination. In front we have Italy, in the south Greece, and in the north we have Croatia. And of course, without a touristic industry, we did not have even the infrastructure for accessible and inclusion tourism. Everything started in 2014 when we changed the law on urban and rural planning, and where accessible and inclusive public spaces are now obligatory in the law. And in 2014, the government launched what is the urban renaissance of the country, where all the cities of Albania, together with the main villages, had big infrastructure development where public spaces were more inclusive and more accessible for everyone. And this also brought a greater economy. Back then, I was working at the Ministry of Culture when we started the big operation that historical landmarks to be with the best infrastructure in terms of everyone can come to them and enjoy the entire experience that these historical landmarks has. And nowadays we see that especially the UNESCO site that we have are totally accessible for everyone. We are working in terms of technology and digitalization, and we are in a good path because also this brings a more inclusive touristic experiences. On the other side, in 2019, Albania experienced the most deadly earthquake of the country in centuries. But this was also where a lot of historical and museums were damaged. But this also brought to us an opportunity, and within 4 years now we have a big program like the rebuild of our cultural heritage and museums, where, for example, the National Museum of Albania and also the National Gallery of Art are under reconstruction and new construction, where accessible and inclusion experiences are part of the design. So we are working in the right direction. Last year, Albania hosted more than 12 million international visitors, which is a huge number for a country with 2.5 million inhabitants. And we believe that by being more inclusive, we can gain more tourists in the future.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, I will skip Michael and Harald, but don't go away because I'm coming right back to both of you. Gunther, we've had a good discussion actually discussing accessible versus inclusive tourism, you and I. I'd like to hear a little bit from you. How does so we've heard from Germany, from Jordan, from Albania, how does the European Disability Forum assess the current state of inclusive tourism? In other words, what are the challenges and what are if there are any very good concrete success stories that could serve as an inspiration, could you share that with us?
Yes, thank you so much. And in our organization and European Disability Forum, we have a slogan, nothing about us without us. So I'm really happy to be here to talk about us and not only without us. What I'd like to say about inclusive tourism, of course we are very happy about inclusive tourism, but always when we are talking about inclusive tourism, we should talk also about accessible tourism. Because accessibility and inclusiveness, it's not always the same. It's not always the same. Inclusivity, it means you are open to everyone, and it means you have your rights to come and do whatever you like to do. But when we are talking about accessibility, that's very easy. For example, today, I came by you to Bonn, and I go out in a station where is no lift. And I can't go up, because I didn't know that there is no lift. So what does it mean if you don't give accessibility or provide accessibility to people with disabilities? They are not able to get their rights. And that is the most important part what we are talking about. And you're asking me about the challenges. There are so many challenges still. We can speak about public transport. We can speak about accessibility of hotels. We can speak about accessibility of other places to stay for the night. And of course, it's absolutely perfect if some of the museums are open and accessible, but still we have so many inaccessible places. And which is even more important, I would like to say, to know before, is it accessible or not? You know what I'm doing always when I go to the city or a place which I didn't know before? I open my internet. I open my internet and try to find out which is accessible. And then some of the people say, you can go there, it's no problem, it's accessible. But there is no information about accessibility. And if I don't know, I will never go. If my friends, my colleagues don't know, they will never go. So even if you are accessible, it's so important to say everyone about it. It's not just enough to be open.
So this is absolutely fantastic material. Is accessibility a prerequisite to inclusivity in this case, right? It's the very base of inclusivity is to have...
Yeah, I would say inclusivity couldn't be without accessibility.
Right, okay.
Because otherwise we have some kind of divisions, those who can come and those who can't come.
Thank you so much. Harald, I'm turning to you. It's a pleasure to have you back on stage. We'll come back in a minute to you, Gunther, as well. So the German Travel Association, you represent really a number of German tour operators. And from your point of view, sort of what are the preconditions? We've just heard from Gunther now. What are the preconditions in the destinations so that we have more inclusive offers? We've heard about accessibility now. And how can those be integrated within the tour operator world?
Well, thank you very much for having me here on the stage, and it was very interesting to hear from you. Accessibility and inclusion go hand in hand. If you take the perspective of a tour operator, so what we do basically is we are planning trips for our customers, and we are open to all customers, of course. We heard the economic impact, which is also quite big, so generally it's open to everyone. But then when we talk about accessibility, we need to know, do we get the information? Exactly what you said, do we get the information not only from specific places, a hotel, airline, but we need information along the whole value chain. Because if one single element fails, the whole trip might be jeopardized. And this brings us to another level. Because of this risk, many tour operators fear the liability which comes with it, meaning I sell you a trip, a beautiful trip, and you can't make the trip because one part is not working. You will turn to the tour operator, obviously, and say, what's happening here? So we need information about each and every element, and we need, and this was mentioned before, we need also trained personnel at the airport, in a hotel, everywhere. Is a receptionist able to talk and communicate in the right way, for example, with a person that has, let's say, a mental ability, and do they know, for example, in an hotel that it's not only the alarm for a fire for those who can hear, but what happens if there's a fire for those who can't hear? How do you make them aware of this fire? Are these features installed in a hotel? I'm not sure if I make myself clear, but there are so many different types of barriers that can occur with customers, and we need for each and every type the relevant information. The DRV has, well, we talk about types, we have data which is called global types. It's basically working like this. So that all tour operators can work on the same information with regard to hotel, like is there a pool, is there a room, is there a restaurant. Each and every element has a global type that you can put information on, that everyone can use. And we have two global types for barrier-free access. But this is mainly targeting people who have a disability in walking and need barrierless hotels. But for example, for people that have problems with vision or with hear, we don't have this yet. So we rely on information, and then we can build products. And I'm very glad to hear that in Albania and in Jordan you have done so much efforts in order to bring the whole product at another level. That is very helpful, and this is why we need the national states and requirements from the legislation to bring the whole product at the level that we need it.
Thank you so much. And then, I mean, it's a nice transition to you, Michael, actually, from listening to both Gunther and to Harald here. Your company, Weitsprung, is a specialized tour operator for persons with disabilities. Give us a little bit of insights about the offers you have, right? Considering what we just heard now. And what sort of cooperation do you have with the destinations? Some of the barriers we've just heard now in terms of it's nice to have something accessible, but if it's not communicated, we don't know about it, etc. Tell us a little bit about this, and also tell us a little bit about the emerging countries, the emerging markets.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I have to excuse myself. I'm not very much familiar with these kind of podiums discussion. We are more into the travel organization.
But that's why we need you here.
So
perfectly fine.
I have prepared myself.
Good.
I would like to give you some insights. So first of all, Weitsprungreisen, we are a specialized tour operator for people with disabilities. 30% of our company employees are people with disabilities. We organize assisted groups and individual travels to about 50 different destinations in 15 countries on 5 continents for more than 25 years now. We are based in Marburg, which is in the center of Germany. Amongst others, we have 4 destinations in Africa and Asia in our program at the moment. That is Namibia, South Africa, Cambodia, Vietnam. In the past, we also traveled to Argentina, Kenya, Morocco, Turkey with our customers. So we are working closely together with reliable local partners like tour operators, for example, Go Africa Safari in Kenya, specialized in tourism for disabled people. To get in contact with appropriate partners, we start doing research via internet, focused on those who have good experience and offer solutions for people with disabilities. In addition, we use trade shows like here, the ITB or the CMT, and do FAM trips to build up our personal network of reliable partners in terms of inclusive travel. We get supported by organizations like the Enterprise Europe Network of the EU Commission in order to get in contact with local hotel partners and initiatives like the String Project from the European Foundation Center. The objective of this project was to implement smart tourist routes for inclusive groups. We worked together with 12 partners from 7 countries on having a better accessible access to historical cities for people with disabilities. We try to keep intensive contact to our customers to have a better understanding of their special needs and work closely with our local business partners to ensure the best possible preparation for inclusive travels.
So to make things happen, you need to make things happen. So you need a large network, and you need to activate many different parts of that network to make sure that it all comes together, if I understand this right?
Yes.
You really work with quite a few partners. Okay, I'd like to pick up on this and simply move back to you, Mr. Eoghan. In Albania, so you've talked a little bit about the accessibility of some of the sites and so on. How do you, so you've listened to a little bit of what's being said here. How do you plan to promote accessible tourism, but to your rural regions, to have this more balanced growth, and what challenges do you see in those regions?
Well, I mean, if everyone says that the crown jewel of Albanian tourism is actually the Albanian Riviera, actually it's not. It's the rural area, the nature, the rivers, the pristine nature of the inland part of the country.
I think we saw that a lot in the opening as well.
Yes, and actually Albania has a fantastic touristic offer in terms of agrotourism and ecotourism. And we are very proud about the culinary experience that you have in Albania, because everything is fresh and it tastes amazing, and we showcased even in our opening ceremony. So the government of Albania tackled the accessibility in rural areas in 2 forms. First of all, was throughout a supporting scheme for ecotourism and agrotourism to make those more sustainable, first of all, and then more accessible and inclusive. And the second is, of course, throughout the infrastructure projects and programs for the pathways and the roads, etc. Today, we are very proud that we have a network of more than 250 agrotourisms and then ecotourism throughout the country, because on the other hand, we don't want to have a short touristic season, because we don't want to have 12 million tourists that comes just for 3 months in the summer. And throughout this offer, we can have also a longer touristic season. Of course, we have some challenges. First of all, as other speakers talked before, throughout the trained personnel of these facilities, and thanks actually to the projects that we are doing also with GIZ in Albania, we are working especially in the rural tourism also to train the personnel which are local communities and local people working there in order to approach in the right way all the customers with different requirements in order to be more inclusive as an experience in the country. But still, we are working on that, and we also have a long path to reach the maximum of the most best experience that you can have in the country.
Yeah, we've heard a recurring theme of infrastructure and training. Mr. Flasbach, I come back to you here in terms of the accessible tourism product. To what extent do these accessible tourism products help people that are outside of the tourism industry at the destinations? How do they benefit from this? I think I've got the answer myself to that, but maybe you want to say a few words. First to that, so how do local people, etc., benefits from those development of accessible tourism product? And then the next question would be, what sort of opportunities do you see in bilateral cooperation with developing and emerging countries? Two questions for the price of one.
Yeah, and let me underline that inclusivity just as a target is nothing. You can put it as a target, but if you don't make it happen, and accessibility, as Gunther said, is a key requirement, but you have also some more preconditions to make inclusivity happen. So what I said in my first statement, or was it in my keynote, I don't know, there are huge economic opportunities going for inclusive tourism. One is, as I said, persons with disabilities are usually accompanied more than the family, also by caretakers, helpers, and so you address a broader group of those who might visit your country or a specific tourist region. And the next one is what just the Vice Minister said. It's also overcoming issues like seasonality. Once you start to be more inclusive and work on the tools to make it happen, the whole approach will end in a broader hospitality. That's right. And this is economic value also local people will benefit from. And the second one for the price of one?
What are the value of bilateral cooperation?
Yeah, I mean, you want to come back to the GDS later, that's but right. This one is addressing the inclusion of persons with disability in developing countries, so it's part of our programming. We do not, as a general approach of BMZ in our developing policy bilaterally with partners is not that we just set certain topics like climate or biodiversity or infrastructure. We discuss it with our partners. And discussing it, for example, with Albania, and tourism is a very important part of, as you said, of your economic development, so it's also a part of our collaboration. Of course, we do not do it in what we call a colonial style. We discuss what are your needs, and then we might ask some question, do you have thought this through? Is that an issue for you? And once you start this discussion, I think inclusion will benefit.
That's right. Your Excellency, listening to what we've just heard now, private, public private sector is involved, obviously, in everything that you do, engage in that accessible offering and in the initiative Accessible Jordan as well. What sort of, do you want to share a few successes of that's been achieved inside and outside the tourism sector of the private sector?
Yeah, you know, I think the private sector may be more believer than the government, because the initiatives and the creativity come up from the private sector. They just came to the government because there is a demand. They can find that this should happen in Jordan. So the NGOs, the private sector, came to the government that we need to change the legislations. We need to come to do something on the ground to upgrade the product. So one of these successful stories where we give incentives. The HDC created a pilot project for inclusive tourism to give an award for the private sector who is aligned with the standards of the accessible tourism, and to make sure that the property is open and welcoming all visitors to this hotel or restaurant. The other thing, we are working in Aqaba, the plaza, which is already next to the shore of Aqaba. All the plaza there and the buildings are accessible now. So we are working in the final stages. As I said, a citadel with the private sector, with the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, and even with the NGOs and the service providers and the restaurants that within the site, the citadel, now accessible, and they are welcoming all kind of visitors. Also, being part of the training courses with the private sector, they are funding and they are facilitating the training courses for the employees in the tourism sector to be well educated how to deal with the accessible tourism. Also, a lot of donation are coming from the private sector to make and to upgrade museums, such facilities in Jordan to be also accessible. One of the zones now we have successful is one of the zones fully accessible in the middle of Amman called Jabal al-Hussein. This is an old Amman, the first, let's say, commercial zone in Jordan called Jabal al-Hussein. The Amman municipality prepared this zone and now fully accessible, and we have now another site to be prepared in the north and in the south. These success stories motivate all of the Jordanians, even not Jordanians, even just to collaborate with the other partners. That's why all the Jordanians and even the institutes went and traveled to our partners in Spain, Japan, United States, in Europe, in Germany, just to learn from them how they can do it. And they are passionate about this. They are really strong believer that we need to change and upgrade the system and the legislations and the product to open the country to be for all.
Great. So we've heard some amazing stories here. Gunta, I go back to you, and I have a special task. And the task is you're going to take us on an imaginary trip. And I know it's not going to be the Straßenbahn 2. Was that the one? I think you've mentioned the S2. Take us on an imaginary trip. How would a perfect accessible destination look like where both you, where the tourists and the local population benefit? What would that look like?
Yeah, when you ask me this question, I have a lot of thoughts about it. And what I'd like to start with, the idea it should be a system. It should be a system where everything is accessible. Exactly like we heard today, because it should be accessible transport. When I know exactly how I can go there, and it should be possibility not to prepare before. Do you know what I mean? It means when I would like to go by bus, I need to prepare before 42 hours. When I'd like to go by train, I need to prepare 76 hours in some countries. So it means if you need accessibility, You need much, much, much longer time than just go and take your bus. When you go to the destination, it's so great that you shouldn't ask, can I go there? Oh, no, I can't. Should I get another door? Yes, 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 you have another door. Do you have a special key for your lift? Oh, no, our lift is broken. So it's a very normal stories in very many places. I have seen so many nice places from outside by saying you can take the lift. That is our kitchen lift. When I'm asking what for you are using this kitchen lift, they said, in general, it's for potatoes. But you can take it, no problems. So the idea is that people with disabilities, me and many, many others, would like to be the same like everyone else. Take the same transport, take the same door, take the same place, and be sure that we can go inside everywhere, but not try to manage to find out, can you do that or can't? That will be the best place.
Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you. Harald, listening to Gunther just now, and from your point of view, and also from your research, are those barriers also the barriers that you see in achieving accessible tourism from a tour operator's standpoint?
Well, I think what we can clearly see is that when infrastructure is planned, it should be planned directly with the inclusion of accessibility and inclusive accessibility. Of course, it's better to transform an existing structure and add features, but to make it really perfect in the sense of a beautiful customer journey, it should be planned ahead. And this also means that when I talk about information, that we need information about the different places, the different mode of transport, we should use digitalization, which is very quick and can be very accurate, so that your time of research is going down, and we can feed our systems with exact information about the different places to build a journey through, let's say, the pathway of accessibility. And then it can become inclusive. And I really liked what you said. There shouldn't be a different door for you, there shouldn't be a different access, and there shouldn't be an extra work of investing time and effort to plan your journey, and it shouldn't be for the tour operators as well.
Yeah, yeah, and Michael, Michael, do you follow this, the same thing, the solutions, in a few words, perhaps the solution that you see as well to make the service, or that could influence the service providers at the destination to make their offers more accessible? What do you have in mind?
Yeah, first of all, I totally agree what Gunther Anscha was saying. What we see today is not always accessible solutions everywhere. So this is a pity. And so we would like to have at least accessible transport at any airport and any train station. And yeah, to have it available all the time, not just on request. And then second, what is also important for traveling is the hotel accommodation. So therefore, we need to have as well accessible access. And like you said before, it is key that if there is a new hotel project planned, to keep that in mind, to have accessible access, not only in the entrance, but also in the rooms, the bathrooms, etc. And this enable us to have a better world and a better capability to do inclusive traveling.
Yeah, did you want to pick up?
Yeah, just a quick thought also. And when you plan this, please also think about the personnel. There is a huge opportunity to integrate local working force with disabilities and train them so they can also become part of the personnel receiving the guests. And that should be an important element as well in the thinking process.
That's a shout out to the 4 o'clock session, because it will be about this, so stick around for sure on that. Gunther, I turn back to you. From the European Disability Forum standpoint, are there specific recommendations you have in terms of raising awareness about accessible tourism, particularly for SMEs? It's heavily fragmented in tourism, especially in hospitality, a lot of small players that may not quite be. So what are some of the activities that you do at the EDF on that?
We are doing quite a lot about awareness raising in general. But when we are talking about small and medium enterprises, I would like to say the most important is what has been said already. People with disabilities are not traveling alone. They are traveling together with friends and colleagues, and they have a very good network. What do I mean? If someone goes somewhere and says, wow, it's a perfect place to go, you'll get more and more travelers. But if someone goes somewhere and said, well, there is nothing accessible for us, you didn't get anyone or just few. And quite often, small enterprises said to me, it's so important to get to buy a ramp or even a lift. It's so expensive. I can't afford it and nobody is coming to me. And of course, nobody is coming to you if you have steps. But it's so difficult sometimes to explain it. So what I'd like to say, we need to show that people with disabilities are not someone who need feeling sorry for them. People with disabilities are those who are clients. They can come, they can pay, and they can be really very good to take many other people with them. And that is a key message, what we should and have to say.
Thank you so much. Raising awareness, yeah, please. Raising awareness also comes across with large events. So Germany, I come back to you, Mr. Flassbach. So Germany and Jordan are co-hosting the Global Disability Forum here in Berlin in just a few weeks. What are your hopes for such a major international event for the tourism sector and for the general awareness? What do you hope out of this? And I start with you, perhaps, with a few words on the GDS.
Yeah, of course, it's about awareness. I mean, some thousands of people will come to Berlin to participate in the GDS. It's a third of this type, and it is addressing, as I said, specifically the situation in developing countries. But as we, as a highly industrialized country, are hosting this event, of course, it's not nice to get the reality that even in my city here, you cannot use the metro to each and every place. And as has been said, it's about a systematic approach. It doesn't mean anything if you have 3 or 4 or 5 stations or half 50%. You need to, it needs to be accessible everywhere, and the best case also with redundant systems. All this is difficult to achieve already in a rich country like mine. And the more the challenges are in many developing countries. We are investing together in many infrastructures around the globe. So it's very wise to think about inclusion already by starting infrastructure projects, by designing future cities, how these cities, for example, should look like. This is all about at the GDS.
Great. I'd like to turn to you, Your Excellency. What hopes do you have, or Jordan, what hopes do you associate with co-hosting this event?
Being in this event internationally, as Jordan with GDS, definitely with our friends here, it's a great honor for Jordan, and it's showing the seriousness of the government of Jordan, and especially His Royal Highness Prince Murad, that we need just to develop a global awareness about the accessible tourism and inclusive tourism, and how countries will work together and to do alliances to make sure that all the supply chain, all the service providers are up to the standards, or make sure all the world is open and welcoming to everybody. So to have this lobbying, let me name it lobbying, international lobbying together, doing partnerships together to unify the standards, to unify the facilities together as a global intention is very important. So being my country to be with this is a great honor, and to show this the message to the world that Jordan is very interested in this. And since '70s, since I'm a kid, I'm hearing the father of Prince Murad, Prince Zaid. He was the one who took the lead in this initiative and made sure that he is on top of the accessible tourism and even the disabled disabilities. And he is the founder of the HDC, so he is the one who is behind this initiative, and his sons, Prince Murad and Firas, are working very hard to make sure that Jordan and even all the countries are working together hand in hand to open the world to be available for all.
Thank you so much. These were the last words. Please join me in thanking our panelists. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. We're running out of time. We're running out of time, so what I suggest we do, we're going to take a small break, about 10-15 minutes. We'll be back here at 4 sharp, because we're continuing with inclusive employment. It's do not miss session. It's called Breaking Barriers, Pathway to Inclusive Employment. See you after the break. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great ITB.
Thank you,